Hi, I'm Alyssa Goodman. I'm a holistic nutritionist. I live and work in West Hollywood, California. I'm also a cleanse expert. I create cleanses with restaurants, and I have my own soup cleanse that I have been doing for 2.5 years that I cook and deliver to people twice a month. And I am so excited to be here interviewing one of my dearest, closest friends. She is really part of my inner circle. I adore her. I go to her for a lot of advice. She is way more than a doula. And I'm going to have her tell you what she does with all of her clients. Hi, Lori. I am so excited to have you here.
I'm so happy to be here. Thank you for inviting me.
I mean, I can't believe I got you here to talk about yourself, and you are one of the most incredible women I know out there in the health and wellness space.
Oh, thank you. Coming from you, that means so much.
And I want to find out, how you got to where you are and being a doula and working with all these women and doing what you do.
I've always been drawn to working with pregnant women. And it first started, my dad once sent me this quote that said, "You can only connect the dots looking backwards." It's a Steve Jobs quote. And once you do that, it'll all make sense. And everything in my life led me to go do my sole purpose, which is to work with, pregnancy, women's empowerment, and helping women through this huge life transition. Years ago, when I was doing a ton of work on myself, I went back to the womb, and I found a pattern that I came into the world with that said, I'm a burden, I'm unlovable, and I don't deserve to exist. And that pattern was running my life, and it all stemmed from the womb. And this hypnotherapist took me back into the womb, and I was so stressed out in there and I had a panic attack, and she took me out of it and said, "You should talk to your mom." And I never knew anything about my birth or my mom's pregnancy with me. And I asked her, and she said, the fact that your soul, the fact that you've survived that pregnancy, your soul was meant to be here. Mm-hmm. And apparently she went into a depression when she found out she was pregnant. She was 17 or 18, not married. And back then, that was like taboo. So she got forced to get married and just went into a deep depression and did things to kind of try to, like, if she starved me, maybe I wouldn't grow, and kind of went into denial. And then told her mom that she thought she had a tumor at like around 6 months pregnant.
That's heart-wrenching.
Yeah, so she went to the doctor, and the doctor's like, she doesn't have a tumor, she's pregnant. And then my mom, they basically got married to my dad. My dad, my mom was gonna put me up for adoption. And my dad said, I don't care, you have two choices. You can marry me, or you can have this baby, and I'll raise it, but you're not putting my child up for adoption. So after about like 8 months of being pregnant, she finally got excited. But the blueprint of my, imprint got imprinted. And then I was born in the 60s, late 60s, not to, well, like
your age?
To age me, anyway.
No one would ever know by looking at you.
Thank you. So I was born in a time where men weren't allowed in the delivery room. She was alone and put to sleep, and I was pulled out with forceps. And because she chain smoked with me because nobody knew. She didn't know any better. And I was in an incubator and just not touched and loved. And it was so amazing because my mom, I love her so much, and it was the perfect soul contract for us. Because had I not come into the world this way and experienced what I experienced, I wouldn't be doing the work I'm doing. So the work that I do really is empowering women to follow their truth, to nurture them, to love them up, to support them with yoga, with meditation, with breath work, with body work, with healthy food choices, just being there to support. And even at the birth, holding space, helping them find their own way, and as a new mom, navigating that shift. When you have that support and you feel that you're going to feel better, and when you feel better, that baby feels better.
That is so beautiful, because I know when I see my clients for health reasons, I do ask them about their birth.
That's so smart. A lot of people don't do that.
I know, because I think it is the blueprint of how you come into the world and how you are out there, and if you're healthy or not, or anxious or not, or just your soul calling comes kind of from where you start.
Right.
So that's why I'm so drawn to you and what you do, because it is one of the most crucial things to help these women bring babies that are healthy, happy, calm into the world.
Yeah, it's so important, especially now, because the world's in crisis and the future is in the hands of our children. And we have to really be the change and lead the way and be more conscious and more, and more mindful,
Right.
and raise our children in this way so that, they can keep it going and be this change that we need to have happen.
What do you find with the women that you work with? I know you work with all different stages of pregnancy.
Mm-hmm.
So what are some of the obstacles?
I think right now there's so much fear and a distrust in the woman's body, because we've gone so medical, I love medical. I do beautiful births in the hospital. I work with some of the most amazing doctors in the world that I love so much. But we put so much emphasis on the medical that we forget that, if you just left it up to your body and your baby, you would know what to do, and your baby would know what to do.
We used to.
Yeah. And also fear. There's so much these days, the overexposure of information on the internet. You Google anything these days, and like 5 seconds later, you're like dying, right? So it just creates a lot of fear, and you hear a lot of stories, and people, for some reason, tend to gravitate towards the fear or the negative. I personally am like, let's read all the stories that are really positive and good. And
I was just going to ask you, what do you do to calm these women down from the fear?
I stay off the internet, and I have
That's impossible,
and
isn't
I send
it?
them positive birth stories. It's like if somebody wants to do a VBAC, which is a vaginal birth after a C-section, instead of looking all that could go wrong, I'm like, let's look at all that can go right. And I show them like success story after success story, and really teach them how to keep projections from others at bay. Stay off even social media. There's no two women. I've been doing this 15 years. No two women, births, pregnancies, couples, families, children are the same. So
Right.
like you're comparing yourself to an image that you see on social media. First of all, that's probably face-tuned. And, we always put our best self out there. Nobody puts the worst.
How important is a positive mindset in all of this?
It's really important. But some people are more wired towards negativity. I have different types of moms that are more fear-based. And we do a lot of work on, I do the coaching, like a lot of the life coaching with them, and I do a lot of my stuff with them is to get them to live in the present moment. Because when the past is gone, the future hasn't happened yet, and the only thing you have control over is what's happening right now and what you can do today.
And you do breath work, don't you, with them?
Yes.
And how much do you do breath work with all the pregnancies?
I do, because I do it with, the ones I go in birth with, because it's the way I breathe in the birth. The slower you breathe, like I'm not breathing right now, the slower you breathe, the calmer you'll be, right? And you can control your energy just by your breath. So the breath I do is I always inhale for 3 through your nose, something positive, and then exhale out through your mouth, something negative. So you can breathe in love to yourself, to your baby. Breathe out any fear, any worry, and anxiety, and let it go. And as you do, you soften, relax, and surrender. And
what about massage with your clients?
I do tons of body work.
And aromatherapy. So
energy work.
So you do it all. Is there anything you don't do?
I mean, yeah, that's when I call you. I basically, I was on a yoga retreat about, God, I don't remember how long ago, with my best friend, Sean Korn. And I got this download when I was in Shavasana, after about my 7th day on this yoga retreat. And I saw the words rooted for life. And then I saw this pregnancy center, and I saw like yoga and meditation and books and products and community of women and da-da-da-da. And I thought, and I remember at the closing circle, I was like, I'm going home and opening a pregnancy center.
Wow.
But I became the pregnancy center. And so I always tell people, when you get your visions, leave the space, or when for like the universe to work its magic, because it might come in a different form than you think. And my books, my products I'm creating, you know, the way I work with my clients is all part of the,
Part of that.
yeah, what I saw in that vision, but just different than I thought.
Wow.
Yeah.
So there's a lot going to be happening for the future. You already have one book, Mindful Mom to Be, which is very successful.
Thank you.
And there is another one in the works?
Yes, I'm writing another one, which I'm putting you in. And I'm so excited for that. And it's really, you know, this one's really for the mothers and all about women's empowerment. So I'm so excited about that. And
then there's one question that I didn't get to ask you was, what was your craziest birth story or, you know, birth that you experienced?
Oh my God, I have some like such wild stories. But this one was like, and she gave me permission to say this, tell the story, because I've told it a couple times. And I just recently did her second birth with her, and we're like this. She lives in Vegas, and July 2nd, she went into labor a couple years ago. And it was 11 o'clock at night. And she said, my water just broke. And I was like, oh my God. Like, I couldn't get on it. So I called the airlines, couldn't get a flight, got in my car at 11 o'clock at night and drove there.
Wow.
And got there at like 3 a.m. She was so excited to see me. Like, we stayed up all night, which I was like, you need to sleep. And she's like, I can't. We ended up laboring the whole next day. At 5 o'clock, the midwife came and said she was like 1 centimeter. And so the midwife said, have some wine and go to sleep. So we had some wine. We fell asleep for about 2 hours. And then we were up laboring. And at about 3 p.m, I was just like,
exhausted?
I was like, all right, I've had enough. Are you ready to get this party started? And she said, yeah, let's do it. I go, I'm going to get the witchy. I'm going to go witchy. I'm going to go, we're going to get crazy. It's going to get weird. And she's like, yeah, let's do it. So I sat her on a birthing stool and I put on like healing music and I started doing all this energy work on her baby. I get crystals. I gave her crystals to hold. I stuck a crystal in her like bra. I put crystals on the bottom. It was like, I don't even know what I was like so out of my mind that I was. And we just started, I said, let's go in and talk to the baby. So I was doing all this energy work. And she was having contractions every 8 minutes for 30 hours. And all of a sudden, I started like getting the baby, I could, telling the baby to come down. I had her breathe her down like she was breathing like down an elevator and just visualizing her cervix opening. And her husband walked in. He's like, what are you guys doing? She's like, just get in here. So he sat behind her and just kind of held her in her arms. And all of a sudden, I was telling her, it's time for her to come, this baby. And I heard this voice out of nowhere that said, I want fireworks. And I opened my eyes. I was like, oh my God, she's coming during the fireworks. I heard her voice. And she goes, oh, well, that would make sense. You can tell she's a little diva. So I kept breathing. And all of a sudden, her contractions started getting like 5 minutes apart. And we had high-five each other. And then they were 4 minutes apart. And we would high-five each other. And finally, they were 3-4 minutes apart. And it was going on for a while. And I called the midwife. And she's like, awesome. So she came over, checked her. She was 8.5 centimeters.
Wow.
In the shower. And she said, okay, girls, I have some interesting news and some, good news. Good news is you're 8.5 centimeters. The interesting news is your baby's completely flipped and gone breech. And we were like, so I don't tell my people what to do. Mm-hmm. I give them choices and empower them to follow their truth and notice what's gravitating towards them, because we all know what feels right. And at 8 centimeters, you're in this thing called transition, which means, you're kind of up there gathering the spirit of your baby to bring back down. So she was at the most intuitive she could be. So I knew that the choice she was going to make was going to be the right choice. So I put it on a movie that, like a documentary about breech births that Dr. Berlin did. And then I got a bunch of reading that was the opposite, the cons. And I gave her to watch and I gave her husband to read, and they both kind of talked and watched. And she said, you know what, there's not enough here to make me feel like I can't do this. I know I'm going to do this. It's going to be okay. So in Vegas, you're allowed to do breech home births. You're not allowed to here. I mean, midwives aren't allowed to. You're allowed to, but midwives aren't.
Okay.
So we got the tub set up. We lit candles. We we got everything beautiful. Oh. And I had the midwife, because I never worked with her, call another midwife, and the midwife came. another midwife came, and we let her labor in the tub until she was about 10 centimeters, and the baby was like right there. She got up, we put her in the bed, and the fireworks started. And this little butt started coming out, and it was pooping everywhere. And then this leg came out, and then this other leg. And then the fireworks were going, and then her whole body came out. And then the midwife said, I need you to push, like really, like to get the head out. So she gave one big push, the baby's head came out, and she didn't breathe like right away. It took her like a couple seconds to transition. All of a sudden, she took a huge deep breath, and the grand finale of the fireworks like went off, and it was amazing.
Oh my goodness.
It was amazing. So
that is so incredible.
It was incredible.
I hope you write about that, because that is an amazing story.
I tell it a lot, 'cause I'm very proud of it. And I love her so much. And we just did a second birth where she called me, and I was like, this time you have to call me. She thought it was gonna be a long one. And I'm like, the first contraction you have, I'm getting in my car. So she's like, hey, I've been having contractions for a few hours. I'm like, oh no. I jumped in my car and drove, and like I got there right as she was like pulling the baby out and putting it on her chest.
So a whole different story than the first one.
Yeah, I was like, what?
Easier.
And I was talking to the baby in the car going, wait for me, like driving
Right.
like 100 miles an hour to get to Vegas at like 6 in the morning.
Oh my goodness.
Yeah.
So I know these births, you're up all night. You're up for days sometimes. I know I talked to you, and you're exhausted.
You and I are like,
way exhausted.
how do we find balance?
Right.
That's our
How do
big
you-
like.
Exactly. So that's my question is, how do you find balance in doing what you're doing? Because you're giving so much of yourself to these women and to the babies.
Yeah. So I'm moving. I'm in the process of moving up to Panga, which is surrounded by nature. And we need different things for healing. I personally, nature heals me. And space heals me. So this house is going to be very healing and rejuvenating for me. Surrounding myself with really positive, good people, eating really healthy. And I used to do 5 to 9 births a month. And
Right.
like, again, I just don't do the birth. So the holding space for that many people really, you remember, I was a
Right.
mess.
Mm-hmm.
So I now am more selective with who I work with. I take 3 births a month max, and I give them everything I have, but I still have all the space now for myself. So it's not like,
So you've really found a balance for yourself.
yeah, I do vitamin cocktails. I do acupuncture. I get massage. I mean, I found when I was doing the 5 to 9 a month, all I was doing was doing a birth, healing, I didn't have any time for anything else. Now I have time for things that make me happy.
Right.
Seeing my friends, exercising, hiking, and with nature with my dogs, like all those things feed me.
And what would you say for this year, 2017, what is your intention for the rest of the year? I know it's fabulous that you're moving and you're creating a whole beautiful space for yourself in Topanga, and lessening your bursts, and taking better care of yourself.
Yeah. Well, that's. I feel like the last couple years, because I've been just pouring out energy, so I'm just working a lot, which has stressed me out a little bit. So my whole thing this year, my intention is really to connect with really get this light of mine to shine as bright as it can, and to to reconnect with my own inner light and make it like huge. Also finishing my next book. And I'm working on a product line that,
Wow.
so really get that going, because I've been putting that on the back burner. And
Okay.
so now that I have the space, I can do some of that.
Right.
And, just showing up and being the best version of myself for my friends, for my family, for others, for my clients, and for these babies.
Well, it's been such a pleasure having you.
Thank you.
You are a light already in my eyes.
Thank you.
So
Well,
it
just
shines.
wait, you're going to need sunglasses.
Oh,
Next
baby.
time you interview me, you better put your shades on.
I don't mind that. But how can people find you out there?
My website, LoriBregman.com. My Instagram is lbreggy, LBREGGY. Nobody posts more than me.
That is true. And I love your
except for
posts.
you. I love posting. It makes me, my intention behind it is to really inspire people. And
Yeah, I feel like people must follow you on Instagram because you are inspiring.
yeah, I try to.
And
I try.
and the things you write, your captions are inspiring, and they're really personal, and
I want people
you're
to
uplifting everybody out there.
Yeah, I want people to really, again, I love watching people. I want, like we talked about earlier, like
Right.
I want, like watching people, like, you know, go and shine and be as bright and big as they can be. It's like, it makes me, that's what gives me joy.
Well, you are a pleasure and a love in my
Thank
life,
you.
and I just want to say thank you for being here with me today.
Thank you for having me. I'm so happy. I love you so
Love
much.
you.
Thanks.